Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the midweek edition of The Yard. Some of you are listening to this on Tuesday, some on Wednesday. It's been up since Tuesday. I'm actually recording this portion of the show on Monday night. It's been a long day, obviously, right? I already recorded one time today. However, I'll be getting on a plane. Yeah, you know your boy's not a great flyer. I'm getting on a plane, flying to Arizona for a couple days. The True Rest Float Spa Convention. The bride and I heading out there to learn a little more about the float experience and about the direction of the company and all that good stuff. It kind of gives us a chance to kind of get away too. We're extremely busy people. So there'll be some socializing while we're out there and also some great cuisine of the Southwest. Can't wait for that. But I will be back on Friday. And we will record your Friday show Friday evening because I'll need to get back, get a little sleep, and then, we'll get going. So we'll give you a preview on Friday, but today we're going to break down Tennessee, kind of look at what they bring to the table. I've also transcribed Josh Heupel's presser from Monday along with 3 players. They're going to have more players tomorrow, and Jacob Bain is going to take care of that for you. So we will keep you apprised of everything going on in Knoxville, what they've had to say, what they think. One of the quotes that kind of jumps out to me before we get too deep into the reads here came from a Tennessee player. You hear so much about the cowbells, right? There's so many people out there that have so many opinions about the cowbells, and I understand if I was an opposing fan, I would probably be a bit annoyed by the cowbells. There are other people that think they're great. There are other people out there that think, hey, it's a unique tradition. It makes Mississippi State kind of stand apart. But Deshaun Bishop, a former walk-on out of Knoxville, ended up earning a scholarship, and he has become a great player for them. Here's what he had to say about our cowbells. Quote, I told one of my friends this week that I'm excited to hear them. Honestly, I've been looking forward to an away game just to get that experience growing and flowing. Those cowbells are something I'm definitely looking forward to. I hear them on TV. Hearing them on TV is interesting. I am looking forward to hearing them in person. End quote. Whenever the SEC office and the cronies around the league begin to complain about the cowbells, I think that quote, and I'm sure there are others out there, they're important to note. It kind of proves the case, right? It is an electric atmosphere at Mississippi State, and it's funny to me that nobody complained about the cowbells last year or the year before, but now all of a sudden that Mississippi State's football program is showing signs of life, people are like, hey, those cowbells are an unfair advantage. Well, were they an unfair advantage last year? Were they an unfair advantage in 23? No. It's just all of a sudden people are like, wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to happen. Jeff Labby and those guys are only supposed to win a couple of games, and they beat top 10 Arizona State, who's now 3-1. Their only loss was to Mississippi State. People saw that environment on television that you created, and it scared them. It did. Players around the country are probably thinking, you know what, I would love to go play in that, right? Either for Mississippi State or against Mississippi State because it is such a unique experience and environment. But you just heard it from a Tennessee player himself. He can't wait to get here and play in this environment. And that's what real competitors want. I want to go play Mississippi State at their best in a packed house. As we record this show, less than 1,000 tickets remain. There's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans there. Bulldog fans need to snatch those tickets up. We do expect a sellout to be announced probably no later than Wednesday. And so that's important to understand. But we're going to talk a little bit about the cowbells and the experience and the things that go with that. It's important that we kind of protect our tradition. We can't give them license or an excuse to take them away from us. And that's for the next generations, not just for ourselves, but for Bulldogs to come. I want my grandchildren to be able to come to Mississippi State and ring their cowbells and cheer on the Bulldogs. I was alive during the ban, right? The ban happened in 1974 and ran all the way up to 2010. The great cowbell compromise of 2010 opened the door for us to get those cowbells back. And again, they've always come under attack. Every time we start winning, all of a sudden, oh, it's a weapon or whatever. You know, it's not. It's not. That said, we've got to abide by the compromise. And we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Cool top 10 list for you today, too. But it's interesting recording 2 shows in a day. You know, Egg Bowl week, we have a kind of a tendency to record almost every day just because it's Egg Bowl week, right? A little different scenario this time as Mississippi State 4-0 will take on Tennessee 3-1, number 15 ranked Tennessee. So we'll dig into them today, kind of get you up to speed. You know, I begin basically on Sunday after lunch. I go ahead and start working on the next week. And the last story that we run on Sunday is like your first look for the next opponent. We also had a chance to speak to Jeff Lebby and selected players. Today we'll kind of look at some of those things too. So, Power Pack show, a lot to digest today, but it's important that every Bulldog understands how important this game is. And if you have tickets and cannot make it, let's ensure that those tickets get in the hands of other Bulldog fans. We need a huge crowd to create a great home field advantage. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. We love Bulldog Burger Company. We've loved them for a long time. Shortly after they got here, I had my chance to go put my feet under their table and had a fabulous experience. When they reached out and began to want to advertise on this show, I was incredibly honored because I like to partner with people that kind of share my ideals and values about business and about Mississippi State. So it's been a great partnership. And I listen, you need to be a partner with Bulldog Burger Company too if you're not already. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Find your own favorites. And again, if you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, start with the Bulldog. You can't go wrong with the Bulldog. Even if all you ate was the signature Bulldog burger from now on, I think you'd be pretty satisfied with life. I like to branch out a little bit and kind of walk on the wild side. I'll get the pimentology, add bacon. When I'm maybe just not feeling like a burger, but I want a salad, and I do that from time to time. I get the BLT salad. I like it grilled. You may like it fried. I'm not judging you. I always get mine with plenty of ranch dressing. I'm from South Mississippi. It's a prerequisite from being from the 601. So there you go. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. And if you're looking good enough and you want to change your appetizer, those dill pickles are great. But the wings are kind of a sneaky favorite too. They really season those things exceptionally well. So be sure and check it out. And get that chocolate or Nutella shake to go, and you can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, let's jump aboard the Tennessee preview. Last year, the Volunteers were a playoff team, went 10-3, 6-2 in the Southeastern Conference. They were a perfect 7-0 at home, and then 2-3 in true road games, and then 1-0 on a neutral field. So if you wanted to beat Tennessee last year, you needed to do it away from Neyland Stadium. Let's go back and take a look here. They opened up 69-3 winners over Chattanooga. They then played in the Duke's Mayo Classic against then number 24 ranked NC State. Played that game in Charlotte. And I think that's a really good neutral site between those two schools. Tennessee at times has played like West Virginia and other teams over there, kind of border states for them. Well, Tennessee absolutely destroyed them, 51-10. And you kind of begin to think, offensively, this program's going to be elite. Well, just if you needed further evidence, they shut out Kent State 71-0. So you begin to kind of do the math on this, and you begin to realize those first 3 ball games, absolutely ridiculous. 191 points the first 3 games. You just don't see those numbers in college very often. First real test came on the road at Norman, Oklahoma. That's the alma mater of Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel. Of course, who had a tremendous college career as a Sooner. Had some injury problems, but kind of became a guy that people really cheered for. And Oklahoma was ranked 15th in the country, and Tennessee marches in there and beats them 25-15. It's a big game for Josh. He said so in postgame. Thanked the players. because of how much the game meant to him. So they're riding high and everything is great. You think, man, these guys are just going to roll right to the playoffs. Well, then they head to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Probably one of the most surprising upsets of the year in the SEC, and the Razorbacks win that game 19-14. This high-flying offense all of a sudden kind of came back to earth, and that's Arkansas kind of does that to you. They make you play their game, and when they get you out of your game, they're a lot more comfortable in the slop, pardon the pun, than you are. And they win. And so that really all of a sudden people began to doubt this Tennessee team. Said, well, they're not for real. They're not going to make the playoff. Well, they bounced back the next week. And you could tell maybe a little bit about this team. They didn't play their best game, but they still found a way to beat Florida in overtime, 23-17. And Florida wasn't a great team at the time. That's become a consistent refrain. I think we would agree. The next week, they welcomed Tennessee back and Alabama back. And you remember Hendon Hooker just a couple years ago, snapped the streak, and everybody went nuts. And I remember when there were so many people that were doubting Josh Heupel when he got the job. I don't think many people are now. And they beat Alabama again, number 7 Alabama, 24-17. So kind of erases that loss to Arkansas. I mean, it's still on the ledger, but you expect them to beat Arkansas and perhaps lose to Alabama. So they get that back, and then it's the weird game with Kentucky, but it's in Knoxville. They find a way to win that 28-18. But as they got into conference play, obviously, the scoring came way down. As we got ready to go play those guys, the most they had scored was 28. They were scoring in the 20s, and we felt like if we could keep them in the 20s, maybe we had a chance. Well, we ended up losing that game 33-14, but it was a better game than I think people anticipated. They had a Heisman Trophy candidate at running back last year with Dylan Sampson, and he ran for 149 yards and a touchdown in that ball game. But it was really after Nico got knocked out of the game and they had to bring in Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore made a couple plays, but not a whole lot. But they just kind of said, we're going to get behind this big offensive line, this veteran offensive line, and we're going to put this game away. And they did. But, State was there for the fight. We were. We just couldn't get enough done offensively. That was an elite Tennessee defense last year, too. All right. They head to Athens the next week, and you begin to kind of wonder, like, what's the situation with Nico? And it proved to be that, Nico has not been all he's been cracked up to be. He hasn't been. And what's happened at UCLA kind of is reflective of that. I still think the way he handled things last year was an absolute joke. Back after spring practice, like, hey, we're going to hold out for more money. If we don't get it, we're not playing in a spring game. We're going to get in the portal. Well, now you're no longer going to have that option because you got the one portal window. So you can't hold teams hostage in the spring. I think that's a good thing for college football. But they head to Athens, a huge matchup there, and they lose 31-17. So, again, as bad as Mississippi State's defense was last year, Tennessee couldn't blow us out. But I think the scoring reduction in SEC play seemed to be a bit of an issue. And you wondered as they got deeper into the postseason how much that was going to matter. Well, you get a bit of a palate cleanser with UTEP, and you get them 56-0. Then you travel to Vanderbilt, who was a game Vanderbilt team. That game ended up being on ABC. And, of course, Tennessee wins the ball game. But it's just so interesting to kind of go back and look at this stuff. Vanderbilt jumped on Tennessee 17-7 in the first quarter. And from there, it was pretty much all volunteers. The Vanderbilt tacks on 6 there in the fourth quarter, but lose the game 36-23. So they were clearly ready for that ball game. And then what do you know? They're in the playoffs. They make the playoffs, and they get embarrassed against Ohio State 42-17. A lot of people did. Ohio State's probably the most SEC team that's not in the SEC, at least from a skill standpoint. They always have some athletes. While I'm not a Tennessee fan, I was proud to see that because I thought it was good for our league. I think it's good. I think Tennessee being good is healthy for the Southeastern Conference because you kind of get tired of the same Alabama, Georgia all the time. But I think they hit their ceiling. They didn't think so. But I think if you're objective about this and you look at what they had, first-time starter and all this kind of stuff, there was a lot about this Tennessee team to like, but they were not a complete team. course, they have to go out and go get Joey Aguilar. Basically made a trade with UCLA for quarterbacks, and I guarantee you Joey Aguilar is probably much happier about his decision than Nico Amaleva is. Volunteers now 3-1. They open up the year against Syracuse. And it's interesting to me that some people were actually picking Syracuse to win this game that was held in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta, Georgia. There were some people like, hey, Tennessee's on upset alert. This could be a game that they're going to have to worry about. And I think a lot of it was just a lack of confidence in Aguilar. It's because of the fact that he was a newcomer, didn't have the benefit of spring practice. Well, he answered those questions pretty early on. It's a 17-0 game after one. Syracuse kind of gets it going there in a second, but Tennessee trades scores with them. So it is a 31-14 game at the half. And the second half proved to be largely uneventful. After that first quarter, Syracuse kind of matched Tennessee from a scoring standpoint, but ultimately lose 45-26, pardon me. But the game was ultimately decided in that first quarter, and then Tennessee just kind of nursed that lead along. East Tennessee State makes a trip to Neyland Stadium and leaves on the business end of a 72-17 beating. Absolutely wild game offensively. Played a lot of players, and the scheduling was good. It's the FCS game before you play Georgia, a game in many respects that kind of defines your season. And it looked like Tennessee was more than up for the challenge as they got going in this game. It's 21-7 Tennessee after one. And everybody's thinking, you know what, this Tennessee team is for real. My group text is lighting up. Tennessee's got this offense. Tennessee is going to be elite. And then things kind of changed. Georgia gets 10 in the second, so you go to the break down 21-17. It's a one-score game. And then in the second half, Georgia wins the third quarter 10-7. So all of a sudden you look up here. It is a 28-27 game heading to the fourth. So Tennessee has squandered that early lead, and you knew Georgia would come back. It's a well-coached team. And then some crazy things happened toward the end of the game, right? I mean, let's be honest. How many people actually expected Georgia to be able to go tie the game? But they did. And it was an absolutely crazy turn of events. It's 4th and 6, and Gunnar Stockton just takes a shot down the field, just kind of throws it up for grabs, and London Humphreys comes down with it. Extra point is good. It is now a 38-38 game. Tennessee, with a chance to win it late, puts together a decent drive, 14 plays, 50 yards, and they just kind of eat the clock up here, and they're going to take the air out of the ball and just kick a field goal. 43-yarder is no good. So we had to overtime. And remember, if you're Tennessee, all the pressure is on you now. There's no way to erase that. It's just human nature. When you had the big lead early against one of your rival schools and they come back to tie, they have all the juice going to the OT. You need to score a touchdown, and unfortunately for Tennessee, they couldn't do it. It's crazy. They hit a 42-yarder. They miss a 43-yarder to win it, and they kick a 42-yarder to take the lead in overtime. And then Georgia scores a touchdown to win the game. And then people begin to think, you know what, maybe this Georgia team is for real too. That is an incredible comeback. This past weekend, Tennessee took care of UAB, and I had a chance to watch that game earlier today, just kind of figuring some things out here. They have lost a lot of starters on the offensive line. I think 4 or 5 haven't really missed a beat. Protection's been good. They're able to run the football. And as much as they want to throw it, the run kind of sets up the pass. They like to take some shots early. They have scored on their opening drive in all 4 games this year. Mississippi State's been a really good first quarter team this year too. Remember last year we only scored 65 points in the first quarter. Doing a much better job this year. But Tennessee jumps on UAB early, 21-0, and they like to work some bubbles and then kind of work off of that. There was one play early Chris Brazel. They have him go out like he is going to block for the bubble. They pump fake the bubble. Brazil releases and is wide open. And that's a big physical wide receiver. Not the biggest guy, but he's long and lengthy and got a great catch radius. Leads, I think, the NCAA in touchdown catches. I know the SEC with 6. We'll get to that a little bit later. But, guys, it was 21-0 after 1. And then the edge kind of comes off. It does. I mean, it's just human nature. It's 42-7 at halftime, and I picked UAB to cover, so I needed them to make a run. In the second half, they do, and most of it through the air. And that's really the knock on this Tennessee team, and a lot of it's because of injuries. But they are a team that has been very susceptible to the forward pass. When you lose an All-American for the year, that happens. Right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But this is a team that's been pretty good against the run, been terrible against the pass. They've allowed 19 pass plays of 20 yards or more. But they've also been able to get to the quarterback some. And so that's an aspect you got to think about too. As Mississippi State prepares for this, pass pro is job one. Because if we can keep Blake clean, I think Blake has an opportunity with our skill at wide receiver to give them a lot of problems. I think that is a fair assessment. Now, we're going to run the football, too, to kind of keep those linebackers honest and keep them from just kind of pinning their ears back and going zero coverage. But that's probably not the route to go when you consider how bad they've been at corner. And I think the difference in this ball game is going to be who can affect the quarterback and who can't. They've done a good job protecting him. We have done a good job at times. Other times we've had some silliness that has cost our quarterback to get hit. It's a very physical front. They do like to kind of get after you. We've been susceptible to the delayed blitz. And some of that, I think, is because our tight ends and running backs have just kind of suffered a little bit in pass pro. Everybody immediately looks at the offensive line. It's not always the case. Sometimes the offensive line's passing a guy off to pick up a late blitzer. There are other times where the tight end and the running back, it's their responsibility to pick up that late blitzer up the middle. And we have sometimes struggled with that. We even did against Alcorn State. They had 2 sacks on the delayed blitz. You're just kind of reading the play and then shooting the gap and making plays. Let's kind of look inside the numbers here. Joey Aguilar, pretty good quarterback rating, 176.08. Completed 78 of 117 passes. 3 interceptions, 12 touchdowns. One of those interceptions came against UAB on kind of a tip drill type play. UAB cuts underneath, gets a handle on the football. It just kind of goes flying up. The safety picks it. But 281 yards a game. That will typically win for you. They've played a couple more quarterbacks, but obviously in SEC play, barring an injury, it's going to be the Aguilar show. And again, it's a tribute to him to come in and do the job that he has done this year without the benefit of a spring practice. Star Thomas leads them in rushing with 272 yards. Played in 4 games. He also has the largest amount of carries. Where's number 9? Deshaun Bishop, we mentioned him earlier, a guy that's eager to hear the cowbells. Second on the team at 263. But it's not just a two-pronged attack. Peyton Lewis has also had a considerable amount of carries and rushed for 157. Not quite as efficient as the guys ahead of him. And some of this, too, has been a product of kind of games getting away and getting some younger guys some rep. Aguilar is a guy, too, that'll run it just a little bit. He's not a plus runner, but he is a pretty good athlete, but he's not a guy that's going to run away from you. The receiving numbers are very interesting. As we mentioned, Chris Brazel II leads them 25 catches, 426 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Well on his way to a 1,000-yard, double-digit touchdown season, provided he stays healthy. Big physical guy, as I mentioned. He's not like a Randy Moss guy, but maybe a little bit like Jordan Tyson, maybe a little bit. We've done a good job against him. But Brazel might be a little more lengthy, maybe. Braylon Staley has had a good year for them, another younger guy. 21 catches, a couple touchdowns for him, 281 yards, and then Mike Matthews. But it's been primarily those 3. Miles Kitselman, and it seems like Tennessee always has a tight end, right? They always seem to have one. They always seem to have some guy that does a good job, and that's him. So he is the fourth leading receiver on the team. And so not a ton of rotation there. And that's something to kind of think about, too. A lot of it's, but you've had some injuries. You got some younger guys just kind of figuring this thing out. But they do like to use the tight end. They run some games and concepts with him where he kind of is a delayed release. He'll look like a blocker, and all of a sudden the linebacker kind of settles in and thinks, okay, it's a run. Ends up being play action. They just kind of curl him out there or run him on a crossing route. They had some real success against UAB with those concepts. So it's just interesting to think that there's nobody else on the team that is approaching double digits in catches. It's not much rotation. So again, Chris Broswell, one of the best receivers in the country, will be quite a chore for us. And if I'm them, I'm trying to avoid Kelly Jones. I want to give my guy the best chance possible. You try to get him against the safety, try to get him against Diego Brumfield, where you've got a bit of a height advantage there. That's something to watch, the cat and mouse game between Coleman Hutzler and Josh Heupel. Arian Carter leads the SEC in tackling right now with 32 tackles. Very, very physical player, and wears number 7, and it will not be hard to spot him. He is what you want a linebacker to look like. Plays exceptionally hard. He's 6'1", 235 pounds, and he will fit a gap. Has some contact courage, for sure. But he's a guy that's, hey, he's not afraid to kind of stick his head in there. It's important to understand. This is a guy that really, really plays hard. Jalen McMurray is a guy that has kind of come on here as of late. He is a transfer corner from Temple. And a guy that was not expected to do a whole lot, but he has. He's done some interesting things. Played last year for Tennessee. There was some discussion this year. He may not start, but he has done a good job when he's been in there. Very interesting guy. He spoke in post-game, very measured in his comments, very mature. So he's not a guy that's a new buck, right? He's going to be a guy that kind of understands what he's looking at. But 23 tackles on the year. That's a lot from a corner position already. And 3 of those have been for tackle for losses. He got a sack and a half. So corner blitz is obviously part of his repertoire. Linebacker Jeremiah Talander is another guy, too, that pretty jacked about coming to play in the game. He's got 19 tackles, 1.5 for a TFL. Also has a pick. They have been fairly opportunistic on defense. And that's kind of who you play and what you're about. They got 3 picks, but they get their hands on the football a lot. They get into passing lanes, make some things happen there. They've got 18 breakups on the year, and not all of those are down the field. Some of those are at the line of scrimmage. It's where the shotgun snap may come into effect for Mississippi State. But, it is a very, very good defense. I would say arguably the best defense the State has played in the front 7, not so much on the back end. There's been a lot that's been given up by this team in the passing game. It's just incredible when you begin to think about Tennessee and the transfer portal and how that maybe has impacted their ability to have depth in the secondary. It always seems like Tennessee has tons of dudes with length and athleticism in the secondary, but they've had to play some young guys, and it's been rather interesting. Looking at the special teams numbers here, Jackson Ross is the punter. 11 punts, averaging 43.73. That'll pretty much get it done for you. 6 fair catches and 8 inside the 20. He's had two kicks of over 50 yards, one of those for a long of 57 on the year. Max Gilbert is your kicker, 6 of 7. He did miss one from 40 to 49, but he's connected one from 53. And, of course, the one 40 to 49 was the one that would have won the game against Georgia. Kickoffs, Grady Dangerfield, no relation to Rodney that I'm aware of, is a guy that's a little bit down the depth chart, but he is a guy that has been very effective. 3 kickoffs, all 3 have been touchbacks. Max Gilbert has punted some too, 4 kickoffs, all touchbacks. Josh Turbyville is the regular kicker. 30 kicks on the year, 27 of them touchbacks. So we haven't returned the ball much anyway. I don't know that we'll have much of an opportunity this week. And so that's just kind of, again, the game within the game. We got to clean up some special teams penalties. And you got a guy that hangs it high and gets fair catches that probably negates some of the concern about blocking the back. Looking at some team numbers here. Tennessee averaging 53.5 points a game. Allowing 27, almost 28 points a game. And that's the thing you begin to think about in SEC play. Typically, your offensive scoring goes down and your defensive scoring comes up a little bit. And you saw that kind of indicated in last year's results for Tennessee. They blew out all the non-conference opponents because they were able to out-athlete them. You get into league play, the games are a lot more competitive. But they basically doubled up opponents, scoring 214 points this year, allowing just 111. Of course, 24 of those came this weekend against UAB. They've got 115 first downs to their credit. 44 of those on the ground, 61 by pass, and 10 by way of penalty. Their opponents, 22 on the ground. UAB had 1 rushing first down. That's it. One. They've allowed 50 passing first downs. And again, we go back to the explosives. 19 pass plays with 20 yards or more. That matchup doesn't really favor Tennessee. When you think about Jeff Lebby wanting to score from far and how Mississippi State is one of the top teams in the country when it comes to passing game explosives, this is not a matchup that favors Tennessee. Now, we'll see what happens when Tennessee's running game attacks Mississippi State. That's a matchup that I think does favor Tennessee. But the Bulldog offense and the throw game, as Jeff Lebby likes to call it, favors the Bulldogs over a Tennessee secondary that is very inexperienced, though very talented, that are missing some playmakers. Let's see here. Speaking of running football, 865 yards rushing, 216 yards a game. Now, I don't expect that to hold. If it does, it's probably not a good night for us. They've allowed about 93 a game. If that holds and we get outrushed by over 100 yards, we're going to be talking about a loss come Sunday. Okay, so we've got to have our rushing numbers comparable to theirs, I think, in order to win the game. If we allow them to dictate terms to us and just keep moving the chains and eating the clock, and the next thing you know, we have to commit a safety to the box and get man coverage, they take a shot, it could be curtains. Could be. As a team, 96 completions with 146 attempts, and again, 3 interceptions, all of those charged to Aguilar. Opponents, though, 104 out of 155. They've thrown 3 picks as the opponents. But again, you look at that, 8 more completions with just 9 more attempts. So opponents are completing the football with a higher percentage than Tennessee's opponents. Now, Tennessee's getting 337 yards a game through the air, but their opponent's right at 279. And again, you begin to think about the step up in SEC play. Yes, they play Georgia, and Georgia found some success throwing the football in the second half. 14 passing touchdowns against 6. And again, Tennessee has allowed 1,116 yards, which is dead last in the SEC through the air. They've passed it proficiently, though, 1,351 yards. But about 66%, 67% for Aguilar. Got to make that come down. You can't just let him sit out there and pitch and catch. You got to go affect the quarterback. What's interesting, too, Tennessee has run 311 offensive plays. You think about running tempo, you want to run as many plays as you can. Their opponents, 301. Now, the difference between those two is that Tennessee's averaging about 7 yards a play. Their opponents are about 5. But 554 yards of offense a game, that's ridiculous type numbers. It truly is. And it makes you wonder, why perhaps the numbers came down so significantly last year. The product of this offense is to really get their athletes into advantageous situations and then them out-athlete you. So we'll see what that means when they pair up with Mississippi State. We're going to have to do some things schematically, though, to kind of overcome a little bit of a talent deficiency. 372 yards of offense for their opponents, but they've scored 28 touchdowns, allowed just 14. And again, that's a byproduct of good defense. When things have gotten into the red zone at times for their opponents, things have kind of bogged down. State's one of the best red zone offenses in the country right now. Kickoff averages, I think this ends up being, kind of a moot point because we do such a good job, too, with the touchbacks. They're averaging right at 29 yards a return. On the punt returns, right at 14. State is averaging 13 on punt returns. So we'll see. Ethan Pulliam, I think, could be a difference maker in this game, kind of flipping the field, making Tennessee be a little more methodical. I think that's the way you got to go, for sure. We talk about, breaking all this stuff down. At the end of the day, it's going to be about 11 on 11. And they're not going to have the benefit of having a large cheering section. They're going to have a bigger one than probably most of our SEC opponents. First true road game for them. They had the neutral site game against Syracuse, but it's only about 6 hours from Knoxville. There's a lot of Tennessee fans, obviously, all over, West Tennessee as well. So we'll see some of them come down. They've been looking forward to coming and watching games. So I'm sure the East Side Lower Bowl will have a lot of people that look like they're ready for a hunter safety course. Time of possession, that has favored their opponents. And that's not the number that it used to be, right? When it was more of a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type game. Tennessee right at 27 minutes, their opponents right at 33. Third down conversions, this is where I think Tennessee, this is one of those things you look at, and I think this is kind of indicative of who Josh Heupel is. You have to be good on third down on both sides of the football, but especially offensively. When you're an explosive team, you've got to be able to convert and keep the offense on the field. They're converting at like 57%. They've gone for it just one time on fourth down. They're going to make the football play more times than not. But 29 of 51 third down conversions, very respectable number. 6 fumbles on the year, they've lost 3, and it's the same for their opponents. So it kind of works out that way. But 15 sacks. 15 sacks for the Tennessee defense. They've allowed just 2, and they play Georgia. So, yeah, they played some teams well beneath their station. But to be able to keep Aguilar up, and, of course, I think that's not just a product of the offensive line, but good pass pro from a veteran group of running backs, but also the tight ends. They are willing to go a little max protect at times to ensure they can take a shot. We're going to have to mix some things up. We're going to have to be very, very creative in what we do. Really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have to find a way to affect the quarterback. Got to make him pull it down and think a little bit and maybe puts himself in a bad situation. They are 22 of 24 in red zone scoring opportunities. 19 of those 22 scores ended in touchdowns. The flip side of it is when you get in the red zone, you're more likely to score. You just don't really get there. I talked about it bogging down in the red zone. It's really just kind of in plus territory. 13 red zone trips for Tennessee opponents that ended in 12 scores, 10 of those being touchdowns. And so all of that stuff to me is rather interesting. But when you begin to kind of break things down, kind of a game-by-game type look at things, you begin to think about what do things look like, how things kind of stack up here. These are the things that I found a little more interesting. Even though transitive properties do not work in college football unless you have similar personnel and run a similar scheme. Everybody's kind of got their own thing here. But you go back and look at this Georgia game. All right, 125 yards rushing for Tennessee. Georgia, 198. Interesting, right? You get out rushed in ball games like that, especially 55 carries for Georgia. Average doesn't work out great, but it's clear that Georgia felt pretty comfortable with what they saw. 2 other games this year, Tennessee has allowed less than 50 yards on the ground. Against Syracuse, they allowed 103. East Tennessee, 28 carries for 49 yards. UAB, 19 carries, 23. I said last year when we played Tennessee, I thought they had the best front we faced. There's been no drop-off. And again, if a team like Georgia that wants to be very physical, and Kirby Smart always has been, that wants to kind of impose their will on you, if it took them 55 carries to get 198 yards, it's going to be interesting to see how we attack them. And, that's really the story right now, is can we run enough to make them commit a safety to the box to give us the opportunity to make some plays down the field. And again, some teams, hey, UAB just decided we're behind in this ball game. We're just going to duck it and chuck it and go make some plays, and they did. You look at the passing numbers too. Syracuse had more passing yards than Tennessee did, 274 to 247. Now, against East Tennessee State, this is where things kind of get gaudy. You're playing an FCS opponent, so you threw for 458 yards. You're trying to find some rhythm for your quarterback. ETSU only threw for 167. So there's the big discrepancy, almost a 300-yard difference. Against Georgia, and it worked out to be about the same because Georgia outrushed them by about 73 yards. And then Tennessee outpassed Georgia 371 to 304, so about 67. So it ends up being total offense, both teams right at 500. And you'd expect that. Two great teams that ended up playing an overtime game. You'd expect the numbers to be comparable, and they were. But you look at this UAB game. Tennessee threw for 275 yards, and a lot of that early. UAB threw for 371. And so back-to-back games, Tennessee has allowed 300-plus yards receiving. Now you would say, well, the UAB game kind of makes sense because they were behind. They couldn't run the football. That makes a lot of sense too. But at the end of the day, 675 yards passing in back-to-back games. I think if I'm Blake Shapen and Jeff Lebby, I'm thinking, you know what, we've got to find a way to give ourselves a chance to get the ball down the field and make those guys defend us. Those are the numbers that kind of give me some confidence, right? I think it's much like the Arizona State game. I think this is going to be one of those games that goes down to the end. The spread opened up at 9.5. It's already down to like 7.5. By the time you hear the show, maybe it's even down to 7 or less. I think there are some people out there that don't have a lot of confidence in this Tennessee pass defense, and I don't blame them. I don't. All right, time for our Close with Blair Player of the Day, and we're going to go with Cannon Boone here. And I'll tell you why after we let you know a little bit more about Blair Chandler. If you've listened to this show, you know Blair's been with us for a long time. Blair is my friend, your friend, and the reason that he continues to sponsor this show is because he's getting results. We have a lot of Boneyard listeners that have bought homes with Blair as their loan originator and some that have refinanced their home. You could be next. I mean, he wouldn't continue to advertise just because he likes me. It's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship, and it has been. We've all won. I've won, he's won, and our listeners have won too. Visit him at closewithblair.com, and again, his number is 601-500-2344. Save that number in your phone, 601-500-2344. Just save it as Mortgage Guy, because you're not going to remember his name is Blair Chandler, but you may remember when you have mortgage needs that you already have a mortgage guy. You already have his number. Not a number to a call center, to an office somewhere. You can call or text Blair directly. So whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, the only name to know is Blair Chandler. He knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance for an approval. Be sure and check in with him the next time that you have needs in your mortgage. You never know when life's going to throw you a curveball. Let Blair do some of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, Cannon Boone, we're going to go Player of the Day, Cannon Boone. Number one, we had him in media availability today, but with all the things that kind of fall, with all of these moving parts, you know, we've got 3 guards that we rotate and 3 tackles that we rotate, and so it's somebody kind of different like every other series. And so Cannon Boone is a first-year center. Okay, we've got to use him to make the checks. He's a very intelligent player. He's a coach's son, has a high football IQ, and he's had a really good year so far. You know, first game, we had a couple snap issues. Cleared that up. Not a big deal. We got it taken care of. But he's going to have to handle all these checks. You know, when Tennessee gets ready to blitz, when they get ready to slant, he's going to have to do some things to help Blake Shapen stay on his feet and to ensure the guys around him are well aware of where the heat's coming from. So I think a lot of Mississippi State's offensive success rests on the shoulders of young Cannon Boone. He's been here a long time now, and his time is now. And again, it's been a really good season so far for him. Of course, we lost him last year after the Arkansas game. He worked extremely hard to come back and be a Bulldog for himself and for all of you. And so we're going to need him to have a big game, and that's why he is the Close with Blair Player of the Day. All right, time for today's top 10 list is always brought to you by Kalito Guitars, your one-stop shop for all your guitar and stringed instrument needs. We love Kalito Guitars. I have a guitar stand, a gig bag, and a Steve Vai signature guitar that I'm very, very proud of. I've enjoyed playing it. It is the cleanest guitar I have ever played in my life. It sounds a lot more like I intend it to, right? I've been the guy that's always had cheaper guitars. I picked them up in pawn shops or bought them secondhand from friends. And they've always had a little bit of a buzz to them, right? I mean, you get something that's kind of scratch and dent, just to kind of figure it out. And then when you start thinking, I want to play a little more regularly, you need to invest in a new instrument. That's what we've done here, and very happy to have Kalito Guitars as a sponsor. A Mississippi State-owned and operated business. You can go to their beautiful showroom in Lake Jackson, Texas when you're in the greater Houston area. You can shop online or you can shop over the phone. No matter which way you choose to do it, we got a promo code for you. It's BSR. You know it well. Let me tell you what that entitles you to. 10% discount. Right? Free shipping. No sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. And then they make a 5% donation of your purchase price to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. Whether you're looking for a gig bag or a case, a new guitar, and they have electric, acoustic, 12 strings for beginners all the way up to professional grade, you owe it to yourself to do business with them because Mississippi State benefits when you do. Right? I wish more businesses did this. It says a lot about them, their character, and their commitment to Mississippi State, but also, too, to you as a musician. Go check out the Kalito Guitars website today. That's CALIDO guitars.com. As I mentioned, I've got the Steve Vai original. It was hand-delivered to me. Just happened to work out that way. They had to make a run to Alabama. Brought my guitar. It was already set up. It's a beautiful instrument, and I could not be happier with the guitar or the level of service. You owe it to yourself to do business with Kalito Guitars, whether you're a Bulldog or not. But since you are a Bulldog, let's do business with other Bulldogs and make sure that Mississippi State benefits in the process. That's KalitoGuitars.com for all your stringed instrument needs. Okay, on Monday's show, we kind of did a life's lesson. Today, we're back in music. Okay, and this is a band that recently released a new single earlier this month. Back in the beginning, I think I was probably one of the first serious Octane listeners. And, of course, they merged, and all of a sudden it's become a bigger thing. Good for all of us. But used to, like Sirius, you could text in your request, and then like minutes later they would play it. That's how I know we didn't have a lot of listeners, at least not many that requested songs. I miss those days, but SiriusXM Octane is a huge thing, and they first turned me on to this band out of Canada. We've had some good rock bands come out of Canada in the modern rock era, but it's a band called the Veer Union. They were originally called Veer. After they got signed, they added Union to it. It's not split back Veer from football terms. It's just the Veer Union, okay? Don't overthink it. It's not that complicated. So here are my top 10 songs from the Veer Union. Of course, we're going to start with the newest one. Number 10, Caught in a Crossfire, released about 3 weeks ago. I think you'll have fun with it. If you know the Veer Union, it is very, very, very good and also very similar to what you've already known from this great band. Number 9, going back a bit, it's Divide the Blackened Sky. Now, this is another one, too. The guitar, like if you're a guitar rock person, and most people are that like rock music, this is a guitar song. Incredible opening riff, and all throughout it, the guitar really kind of shines big. The vocal delivery is good, but this is one of those songs that you like because the riff work is so excellent. Number 8, a more recent track from them. Everybody's just kind of releasing like a string of singles and then calling it an album. This is from the newest one. It's Sea of Fear. Kind of back to the beginning. Lead track on the debut album, it's I Will Remain. It's your number 7 track today, I Will Remain. And it's kind of a song of empowerment, kind of a song of defiance. I think you'll enjoy that. Number 6, Defying Gravity. This is a good one too. I think the vocal delivery kind of shines on this one. And again, it's kind of metaphorically speaking, right? I mean, there's so many things in life that happen to us, and there's all these people that want to hold us down. This, again, is another song of empowerment. Our number 5 track is a little bit of a deeper cut, and you can find it on the Best of album 2006-2016. If you know the catalog, you know this originally was, it's one of those tracks too that they've done some acoustic versions of too, and it's really a song about depression. It's about kind of coming to the end of your life and kind of reaching a realization that maybe you didn't do everything in life, maybe you couldn't have everything you wanted in life, and in some ways that kind of brings a sense of peace. Right? It's like I did the best I could. I did the best I could. And that's one of the songs that I wanted to kind of point out too, because there's so many people in life and so many situations in life where people try to suggest that you can be and have everything. And that's just simply not true. And I think understanding your limitations is kind of a key to serenity. That's where that song kind of takes me. Number 4, kind of along those lines, it's Youth of Yesterday. I think this is another one, too, that's got a good message in it. I think about these things all the time. I remember the great John Cougar song from years ago, Cherry Bomb, where he says, 18 has turned 35. Well, I'm 53 now, right? And I've got classmates dropping left and right. There are probably some people hoping that happens to me. I hope not. But the reality of it is that life is long, but it's probably not as long as you'd like for it to be in most cases, right? There's never going to be a perfect time, right, to say goodbye. It's just not. But when I look back at my life and the things that I have overcome and the places that I have been and the things that I have been able to enjoy in my life, when it ultimately ends, I don't want to feel like I've left anything undone. But the thing that I would probably say that makes me the proudest is that I have lived. I haven't just existed. I have lived. I have known what love is. I've lived that. I've enjoyed that. I know the joy of watching my children grow up and become high achievers. And I've kind of reclaimed my own life in many respects because, as I've shared with you guys before, in my 30s, I got old. I just became the guy that paid for everything. I had no ambitions or dreams for myself. And then now here we are many years later, and I don't have any regrets. I really don't. That's one of the things that recovery has taught me is, life of regret is very expensive. It truly is. That the price you pay for living a life of regret is a debt that you never, ever, 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 ever pay off. There's always the monthly and weekly and sometimes daily installments that you have to pay. And so I think it's important to forgive yourself. We talk about how important forgiveness is. Forgiving yourself for maybe not achieving is an important part of life. Forgiving yourself for some wrongdoing in life is important too. Once you've obtained forgiveness or sought forgiveness from somebody else, you got to be able to forgive yourself. I got things for years and years and years. I felt so bad about it. Even when I apologized and people said, "Hey, Steve, it's okay. I love you. It's okay. Let's move forward." It still beat me up inside. I had to kind of find a way to be okay with the past. And as I've shared with you guys before, I'm done with the past, even if the past isn't done with me. I'm not going to let that shackle me and steal what I have left in the remaining years of my life. The next 3 songs, I think most of you that know Vera Union will know these. We may argue over which is the top song. Number 3, it's Seasons. I absolutely love the vocal delivery on this one. I like the guitar work on this one. To me, it is absolutely one of the best songs in the catalog. And it makes me, when I think about it, why did we wait so long to do the Vera Union? Why? And I think it just kind of, with the release of the new single, and I was like, you know what? We should have done these guys a long time ago. But Seasons is one of those songs, too, that's got a great message. I mean, things come and go in life. And learning to be comfortable with the new season. We spend so much time trying to hold everything and everybody down in place, right? It's just like I think about, the great audio segments on the Nothing More album. the new one, where they talk about, trying to swim upstream. You kind of delude yourself into thinking you're making progress, but when you just let go, you gain the power of the river. I mean, it's just amazing to think about that metaphorically, right? You absolutely gain the power of the river rather than fighting that. And I think that's one of the things in life that adulthood has taught me. Control is a myth. If you're in love with somebody and they're not loving you back, if that love is not requited, you can't make them, right? And if somebody's being unfaithful to you, you can't build a wall big enough to keep them in. You just can't. You just make yourself sick, right? Constantly checking their phone and asking all these questions. And what you're doing is you're making yourself and your partner miserable. The thing that I have learned about all of that, and it took me a long time to get there, if she wants to go, I can't make her stay. And there's some people out there that are holding each other hostage. And it's sad, and it is. But the way that I look at it is I certainly don't want her to go. I don't. I want her to love me the rest of my life. But in the event that she does, I know enough about myself that I will be able to recover. It may take me a while, but I've got to be grateful for the sunshine and the rain. Like they say, all sunshine and no rain makes a desert. We grow in the rainy season, and so I have learned to be grateful for the rainy seasons in life. Number 2, this is a little bit different song. It's the darker side of me. It's like, you wanted to get to know me, but there's some parts of me that maybe you don't know. There's some things that I'm sure you hadn't told me too, right? You always want to put your best foot forward, and but all of us have a darker side, some darker than others. Some of us are black-hearted. It's true. Some people just kind of pretend to be because it's a coping mechanism, My attitude has always been, and thankfully, when I wrote When the Bottom Falls, I had the opportunity to make any lingering amends that I owed to any of my significant exes. I contacted all of them, and I tracked one down, and she wouldn't admit it was her. I'm confident that it was. I think she just didn't know what I was after, and I understand that too. But everybody else was like, hey, I just want to listen. I'm going to be writing about you. I want to get your permission to do so. And if I need to change some details or change your name, I'm happy to do it. A couple of them wanted their names changed, and a couple of them didn't. One of them I did anyway, just because I wanted to protect them, because they did some absolutely awful things to me. But all that I understood, everybody's got that. Everybody is capable of negative things, negative behavior. And that's kind of what that song is about. But number 1, it's the bitter end. And this is one of those songs, too. I think if I was going to sell you the Vera Union, this is where I would start. Thus, it's number 1. So that's your top 10 list of the Vera Union, my top 10. And, of course, check out the new single if you're already a fan of the band, Caught in the Crossfire. If you're looking for a new band in the modern rock era, this is probably a good one for you. So if you're looking to kind of get into a new band, let me recommend the Vera Union. I think you'll enjoy them. I have enjoyed them for many years, coming up on 20 years now. I've been a fan of this band. I've never seen them live. I have some friends that have. They say it was a good show. I've seen some videos, performance videos, and kind of lends you to that line of thinking that you think, yeah, these guys are legit. Nobody stays in the music industry for 20-plus years and still produces new music. They are not a nostalgia act. They're a band that is still touring, still recording. And again, I think you'll have some fun with them. That's the Vera Union. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samanti on X at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. I don't pawn that off on him. It's just he didn't get as many notifications as me, and that's not a flex. But sometimes I don't see them. Ball games happen. We get busy with press conferences. Next thing you know, I'm tweeting out content, and I don't see the mention. Roy does, and he's happy to put these lists together for us. And you can find our great list on Spotify under that same handle, Dogmatic67. Follow me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution, man. We love Campus Bookmart. We do. And why? Because they have the merchandise we want. We want to outfit our wardrobe, our home, our office, our pets, and all Mississippi State type stuff. Whether you're looking for apparel, looking for office supplies, decorative items, or perhaps everything you need to detail out your fan cave, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. I'll be signing books there this weekend, 10 to 1. Make sure you know that. So if you're in town, and I suspect you will be, coming for the opportunity to watch Mississippi State and Tennessee play, swing by Campus Bookmart and pick up some Mississippi State merch. Get some signed books. Yeah, it's a fun thing too. And you can order those too. You can order those books when you do your online order, and they'll be signed. That's a cool thing too. So again, if you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet at campusbookmart.net. Use promo code BSR to get free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Okay, let's weigh in a little bit. Chris Lowe, of course, leaked out on Monday, and hey, that's a good scoop for him. I can't confirm everything on this list, but I assume it's correct. I can confirm Mississippi State's opponents. We found out on Saturday, and we're asked to hold it until Tuesday when they have the big reveal show. Somebody in the SEC office is probably going to get a nice dressing down from Greg Sankey and Chuck Dunlap and everybody involved there. But Mississippi State's 3, quote, permanent opponents: Ole Miss, Alabama, Vanderbilt. Some people are upset about that. I think many Mississippi State fans actually like playing Alabama because when we have beaten them, it has made our season. We just hadn't beaten them enough. Of course, you're going to get Ole Miss and you pick up Vanderbilt. And the way this list was put together, from what I'm told, is I don't know the period, right? The period of time they used, but they ranked all the teams like numerically. And you got somebody really good and you got somebody that hadn't been so good, even though Vandy's been good as of late, but Pavia will be gone next year. But let's kind of dig into this a little bit too and kind of see who maybe got a favorable draw and who didn't. Alabama's list, and I could speak about this for a while because I still think Alabama's getting too much of what they want. That's my personal opinion. I think Alabama is still a protected species by the Southeastern Conference, and I think that's wrong. We are still, in some respects, being held hostage by the third Saturday in October. And let me just tell you, it's lame, man. It's lame. But Alabama gets Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. So they basically, nothing really changes for them. You know you're going to play Auburn every year. You've always played Tennessee. And then you pick up Mississippi State at a time that we haven't been very good, and we haven't beaten those guys since, 2008? So, hey, that's a good draw for Alabama. And I just don't think it's fair. I don't. Arkansas, I think's got a little bit of a beef if you're Arkansas. You get Missouri, which makes a little sense, right? Geographically, they've tried to make that a rivalry game. And then you get Texas and LSU. It's like, what did Sam Pittman do to everybody? It's like that's the thing that I look at and say, you know what? This has not been equally distributed. And there's no way that you can make everybody happy. But I think Arkansas folks have a real beef. Now, we talked about Alabama getting what they want. Well, Alabama and Auburn both kind of get what they've always had. They get their 2 natural rivals. Auburn gets Alabama and Georgia. And the Auburn-Georgia game has been a lot of fun. And then they get Vanderbilt. So to me, I don't think Auburn has a beef that Alabama got more favorable treatment because they essentially got the same treatment. And again, I think it's wrong. Florida, I mean, we worked so hard to get away from all these, the divisions, which I still think was stupid. But Florida gets Georgia, South Carolina, and Kentucky. So they get their regular rival in Georgia, and then they get South Carolina and Kentucky. The 2 teams, historically, that have kind of brought up the rear in the SEC East, minus Vandy, right? So that's a very favorable draw for Florida. Scott Strickland didn't have anything to complain about. Georgia, again, they get what they've always gotten for the most part. They're going to play Auburn, who has been a regional rival, Florida, which is an annual rival. They played a game in Jacksonville, and then we're going to throw in South Carolina. That make a lot of sense to me. Kentucky, and again, we're right back to the whole SEC East thing. Kentucky gets South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. If you're Kentucky, I don't think you're happy about that. You get South Carolina, but then you get Tennessee, who routinely beats you, and Florida, who up until late has dominated that series. LSU, they got a favorable draw too. They get Ole Miss, they get Arkansas, and they get A&M. So basically what's happened here is LSU gets these, quote, rival games, the battle for the Golden Boot, and I can assure you nobody in Baton Rouge cares. You get the, quote, Magnolia Bowl, and I can assure you nobody in Baton Rouge cares. And then you get Texas A&M, a team that have played historically even before they became an SEC school. So this is right back to the old SEC West. Missouri, kind of a throwback in some respects to the Big 12 and the Southwest Conference. They get Arkansas, A&M, and Oklahoma. Is it a fair draw? I think based on what Drinkwitz has done, probably so. But you got to think about resources, right? I don't know. I think Missouri may have a bit of a beef here. Oklahoma gets Texas, of course, the Red River rivalry. Then they get Ole Miss, which seems to be very, very random. And then Missouri. I think Oklahoma got a good draw because you wanted to play Texas every year anyway. And then you pick up Ole Miss and Mizzou. I think it's a good draw for Oklahoma. If I'm Oklahoma, I'm happy. Ole Miss, they get State, of course, and then the, quote, Magnolia Bowl, which, again, is so stupid. And then they get Oklahoma. Again, it appears rather random, but you got to put Oklahoma somewhere. South Carolina, again, back to the SEC East scheduling. They get Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida. I think if you're South Carolina, you're happy that you got Kentucky. You're not so happy you get Georgia and Florida. But you know what? You've played them pretty much every year for 2 decades. Tennessee, again, I think they're a protected species here. They get Alabama, of course, to make Alabama happy. I think Tennessee folks would be happy not playing Alabama. That's just my feeling. Then they get Vanderbilt, the big in-state rivalry, and then Kentucky. And so, again, this kind of is going back to what we've always done. And then Texas. And if I'm Texas, I'm happy because you're right back in the Southwest Conference. You get A&M as a regular opponent. That game should be played. You get Arkansas, and you get Oklahoma. And so I think they're happy. And so, again, there's no way you can make everybody happy. There's no way. But I firmly believe, and number one, I'm happy with what we have. I mean, you're going to get one good team and one okay team, and you're going to get Ole Miss. But it's pretty clear to me that the Alabamas, Auburns, and Tennessees were protected. That's how I feel about it. Some people may say that, we're being petty, but that's just kind of how I see it. I think it was a better draw for them. It makes the most sense to me. And in Texas A&M, we talked about them. They get Texas, LSU, Missouri. You kind of could do your own deductive reasoning there. Vanderbilt, and I think Vanderbilt may have a little bit of a beef too. They get Tennessee, the rivalry game, Mississippi State, and Auburn. I think Vanderbilt probably, all things being considered, that you have looked up at the rest of the league through most of your history, and of course Clark Lee's got it going now, you probably feel like it's a pretty good draw. You probably want that Tennessee game. You feel like Mississippi State's probably a team that you could beat somewhat regularly. That's how you feel. That hadn't been the case. And you get Auburn. And so you get your in-state, quote, rival, you get State, and you get Auburn. Not a bad thing. The whole schedule announcement will air on Tuesday night. I don't know what time you're listening to the show. on the SEC Network and ESPN2. They tried to make a big event about it, and again, the news kind of leaks out. And hey, good scoop for Chris Lowe. But somebody somewhere, I can assure you, is getting dressed down by the league. They don't like it when those kind of things leak out early. I can assure you of that because I've gotten those phone calls before. Hey, how'd you hear about this? Got a phone call about this. What's going on with this? It happens. But the way that I always look at it, if we learn of it independently and we can confirm it, then we've got an obligation to run it. I mean, we don't work for the SEC. We kind of work at their mercy at times. We're credentialed. Do you really think the SEC is going to pull Chris Lowe's credentials after all the years he's covered this league? I mean, Chris is a legend in many respects, but not going to happen. And I'm sure somebody will ask him who told him, and being the journalist that he is, Chris won't tell him. But that's how it kind of lays out. And again, we'll find out. I will be in the air somewhere. Will I be there yet? No, I won't be there yet. I'll be on my way to Phoenix, but we'll be in the air. Be a long day. Again, your boy's not a good traveler. I enjoy traveling. I don't enjoy flying. It kind of helps to have somebody to hold their hand. And now that I have Dana instead of a complete stranger, makes it a little easier to deal with. But nevertheless, that's how I see it. Maybe you see it differently. And again, I think it's a difficult job. There's such a balance that has to be, pursued here. But I just get so sick and tired of the entire league being held hostage to protect Alabama's rivalry. You know what the most watched game in recent years in SEC has been? Do you know? It's LSU and Alabama. That's gone. The LSU-Florida games have been really good, been highly rated. But I think economically speaking, when you look at Mississippi State, it makes a little sense for us. Is Texas A&M going to sell their ticket allotment when they have to play in Starkville? No. Will Alabama? Yes. Will Ole Miss? Yes. Will Vanderbilt? I don't know. But I know that it gives everybody in our fan base 3 road games within a reasonable driving distance every other year. When you begin to kind of factor that aspect of it. We're asking more and more on fans. So I think this is kind of a convenient deal. Going over to Tuscaloosa, going to Nashville, which is my second favorite southern city, and then going to Oxford. I mean, those are all very drivable and very doable. So I think that's a factor you got to look at and say, you know what, hey, this may not be quite so bad. We don't have Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, right? How brutal that was. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle when you're bringing a large group to town, and you should. You've thought about it. You've talked about it. You maybe even dreamed about it. Make your dreams a reality. Book a stay at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Mom and Dad deserve it. You deserve it. The kids deserve it. Whether it's college, friends, a couple's weekend, a family weekend, you can do it all. Plenty of parking for you and all your guests. The full-service kitchen. The wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, the old renovated clubhouse, the old country club out past the Highlands on 182. You can do your tailgating right there. We've stayed there, had a blast. Plan to do it again. It's just something nice about having everybody under one roof. It's all those in-between moments, right? When you're not eating dinner, when you're not watching a ball game, you're just kind of sitting around catching up. Those are wonderful moments. You owe it to yourself to do that. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate. You can check out all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guests. And some booking options will pop up too. You can book through Airbnb and VRBO if you want to. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's beautiful Steve Robertson, the number 10, BSR10, gets you 10% off your stay. What a great service to be able to stay in the premier place in the Golden Triangle for large groups. Again, you owe it to yourself to make those plans. I want to talk a little bit about the bells, okay? For those of you that have lived through the period where we didn't have them, when it was illegal for us to have them, there used to be a time they would flag us. There was a time we had to sneak our cowbells in, and they would take them from us. They're considered contraband in other venues, right? So if you bring your cowbell on the road, they're going to take them from you. They are. And it's a wonder you guys get them in with all these metal detectors these days. But nevertheless, we used to kind of have a friend go in first, and we'd pitch them over the fence, and we'd hide them. And then they got a little more wise to that. We couldn't do that. So I share that because many of you have never lived without them. It is one of the things that makes our fan base and our tradition very unique. If you don't know the story, allow me to tell you, it was in the 1940s. We were playing Ole Miss. I can't remember the exact year. I wrote about it in Alpha Dogs, I think. But it was in the mid-40s, and we were losing the Egg Bowl. And a cow got loose from the animal husbandry department and wandered onto the field. The game had to be stopped. After the cow was corralled, Mississippi State rallied and won the Egg Bowl. That's how the tradition was born, because we began to ring the cowbells to summon the cows for good luck. We're a cow college, right? We're an ag school. That's where the cowbell comes from. It wasn't just like one day somebody just decided. It kind of started within our students. It spread to our fans. It has become one of the greatest traditions in college sports. So I think we are probably okay, but we have to abide by the compromise. We get warned first, and some people are like, hey, let's push the issue. The reality of it is I don't think our team needs us to ring them continuously. They have the same impact if we abide by the rules. I know some are thinking, well, if we ring when the cows are, when the center's over the ball, it gives us an advantage. I don't think that's the case. As I've shared with you guys before, there was a former Mississippi State assistant who went to work at Auburn, and he shared with me, it kind of freaked him out when we stopped ringing and started yelling. It's like all of a sudden you get used to all this noise, and then right before you snap, things change. And it actually caused them to have some false starts. We're abiding by the rules, but we're doing something that kind of sounds kind of weird. It was better last week. It has to be much more in compliance this week. And we've, of course, when we win, that's when it becomes a problem. No matter the motivation of our enemies, we have a responsibility to ourselves, to the university, to our football program, and to future generations of Bulldogs to protect this tradition. Some people have said, well, you guys are making a big deal out of nothing. You're wrong. You're wrong. Not to mention, Zach Selman has never had to deal with this issue. And I'm sure Zach will navigate it fine. But Scott goes and negotiates this settlement that allows us to bring the cowbells back. And I think that's one of the things that Scott probably deserves more credit for that people don't fully appreciate. And so we've had them now for 15 years without any issue. How we rang them against Arizona State was not in compliance. And you know what? It was an incredible atmosphere. We can have the incredible atmosphere without breaking or bending the rules. And I think the administration took some positive steps last week to ensure that we begin to kind of move towards compliance. It's a much bigger deal in SEC play, and they will be SEC observers on campus this weekend. We need to ensure that we are doing things the right way, because there are people out there around this conference that would love to take our cowbells away because it does give us a competitive advantage. And the brokered trust was that we wouldn't do it when the center was over the football. So you've seen the rest your bell, just yell type things. We used to have the video. Somebody said it was John Bond. I don't think it was. I think it was somebody else in the administration. We did the video kind of explaining the rules. We played that video before each game as part of pregame to kind of explain how it all works. There were still some people that were non-compliant, but everybody around them is like, hey, man, let's stop because we love the cowbells. No one game, no one play, no one drive is worth us putting our tradition at risk. And so everybody needs to kind of help police each other. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and think, you know what, this is what I've got to do. Let me assure you, the team is going to win or lose based on how they play on the field. You being there is a big part of that. And so in the event that we would lose the cowbell tradition, it would be very detrimental to our football program, to our university, and to our traditions. So let's all work together in compliance with the Cowbell Compromise of 2010 to ensure that cowbells are ringing in Starkville and Davis Wade Stadium for generations to come. And we'll have to have this, I'm sure, every so often. But our fan base is hungry to win. Our fan base turned up for Arizona State and like, hey, we're going to win this game. We're going to do our part. Again, you can do your part within compliance of the compromise. Now, as we're recording this show, there are less than 1,000 tickets available through healthstate.com. There are going to be a lot of Tennessee people, especially on that east side. I encourage you, if you haven't bought tickets yet, get them through healthstate.com to ensure that you don't get scammed, but also, too, we want to keep as many Bulldogs in the venue, right? There are going to be some people, some Bulldogs out there that disagree with you and I. They're going to sell their tickets. Some people buy them as an investment opportunity, which I don't agree with. When I had tickets before I was a team coverage guy, I was a recruiting guy for many years and then began to get into team coverage. And before that, I had tickets 25 rows up on the west side behind the Mississippi State bench. I don't know if there were better tickets in the country. Right there on the 50-yard line. And we had an absolute ball. And what we did, we had so many people. Obviously, the Hartzogs are part of our group, and Mala Nelson. And in the event that we couldn't make a game, you just kind of gifted your tickets to your neighbors, and they would ensure that some other people that were Mississippi State people would sit there. Now, there was one year in particular, right behind us, every week, there were opposing fans behind us. And most weeks, it didn't matter. Everybody was just there rooting for their team, and I got no problem with that. We had an issue with some LSU folks. We did. They got a little too deep in a jug. Security had to get involved. It wasn't nobody threw any punches or anything, but they got a little bit unruly. A little bit later in the year, we had some Alabama fans back there. They got a little unruly. And, of course, they're sitting in somebody else's seat, right? They have no obligation to the community of the Mississippi State fan base. And you know that everybody in your section is like your family. You know how that works. Well, eventually, it made its way to the administration. And then for the rest of the year, there was nobody sitting in those seats. So we found out later somebody bought them to give to clients. And I guess I understand that aspect of it, but we paid an awful lot of money within our ticket group to be able to sit there with Mississippi State fans. Some people would say, oh, Steve, it doesn't matter. Well, I think it does. And your opinion may be different from mine. That's perfectly okay. But all that understood, we want Bulldogs in seats, ringing cowbells, and cheering this team on to victory. What happened when Georgia came in here a couple of years ago, when they just basically took over our stadium, was an embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment. When I had tickets and I couldn't get them in the hands of a Bulldog fan, I ate my tickets. I would rather there be an empty seat there rather than an opposing fan sitting there. That's one of the things that my little group was very, very serious about. I knew if I missed a game and I showed up the next week and there were opposing fans causing problems in our section, I was going to owe some apologies to other people. It's not just at Mississippi State, right? And people say, but Steve, you get tickets to sit elsewhere. I understand that. I do. And how other people do it is their business. But what we do is our business, right? I have a friend of mine, I was a season ticket holder for LSU for 1 year when I lived down in Baton Rouge because I won a contest. And so we went to the games. And we did. We got to see Eli Manning throw a pick to end the ball game, and LSU won the game. You know, I was there when LeBron Tofield broke his arm against Louisiana Lafayette. I mean, it was just crazy things like that happened. But all that I understood, I had a friend of mine that had some premium tickets, and we got the chance. I was going to the game with them. We had a chance to get some better tickets that had the food amenity attached to it. And he goes, hey, I want you to come to the game with me, but you can't wear Mississippi State gear if we're playing Mississippi State. Well, it just so happened they were playing Ole Miss, so I wore my State gear, right? And everybody was happy, right? But we had somebody else that was kind of a rabble-rouser that wanted to get the tickets next to our friends, and we elected just to eat them. And I remember Tim Vidrine's the guy's name. And Tim said, I just don't want our guys to have to go through a negative experience. They work hard. They look so forward to these ball games each and every week. I would hate for their experience to be diminished because I just wanted to make a few bucks. The money's already spent, right? That's how I look at it. Again, we may disagree. And some people say they're my tickets. I can do whatever I want to with them. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I just wish we would spend more time thinking about our fellow Bulldog fans. And that's not just with tickets, but really with everything. So that's going to pretty much do it for today. We're going to wrap up the show. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com. You can get signed copies of all my sports titles. Of course, that's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, and of course The Dude, which is still on the bestseller list, which blows my mind. It's almost a year. It's incredible. And the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. If you're in recovery, need to be in recovery, or just want to learn more about what it's like to be in recovery, or maybe you just want to read a great human interest story, that's the book for you, When the Bottom Falls. Come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. Business is going great. Thank you guys so much for the support. You can dial 662-268-7601, and you can speak directly to my wife, Dana. She'll answer any questions you may have. She was a registered nurse, so she knows a lot more about the medical profession and medical conditions than I do. And so in the event that you've got some things you need to ask, that's the person to talk to. It's a great experience. I don't float enough. Sometimes I got to make time to go do it. She told me today she floated and fell asleep, and it was glorious. I love that for her, and I love it for all of you. We've got so many people that come and float on a regular basis, and we have seen them tell us what a major impact it's made in their life, and perhaps they've had chronic pain or anxiety or just needed a break. We've been able to help them. We may be able to help you too. No guarantees in life, but I can promise you, having an opportunity to kind of be in a sensory-deprived environment is a great rest opportunity for your mind and to allow your mind, spirit, and body to kind of have a period of healing. So be sure and check it out. If you'd like to buy a gift certificate for somebody else that maybe is afflicted with some of those things, you can do that too. Yeah, 662-268-7601. And come visit us over at genespage.com. Again, we want to be your one-stop shop for Mississippi State coverage. Even if you're not a subscriber, there's still plenty of content. We make a lot of stories free. All of our videos from all the press conferences, post-game, everything is free. And you can watch that whether you're a subscriber or not. We think you should be a subscriber. We'd love for you to come join us. But in the event that maybe you can't afford it or maybe you're not totally convinced, just come to genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports, and you can peruse all of our free content. We push a lot of it out to socials, so it's easy to find. But there's nothing like being able to come to the Mississippi State genespage.com website and then watch all the videos of your coaches and players speaking about the big win or kind of previewing a game week. And again, you can do that for absolutely free. Listen, I love each and every one of you. I share that with you. As you guys know, I'm getting on a plane here in a little while too. And so, maybe some T's and P's up for your boy. I'll be fine. I just don't enjoy flying that much. I do enjoy traveling, and I'm looking forward to some authentic Southwestern United States cuisine. I already told Dana, I said, one of the first things I want to do when we get there is I want to go eat some really, really good authentic Mexican food and just have a great time. We don't get to get out as much as we used to. Running two businesses can be very taxing. And so I'm really more happy for her, right? I do a lot of traveling already, but, she runs that spa and it's her baby. And I've tried to get her to hire somebody. And she's like, I'm just so afraid that, somebody won't do it as well as me. And nobody ever could because it's her baby. But it's nice to know that she's going to get an opportunity to kind of get out and let her hair down a little bit, kind of socialize with some of the other franchisees, and we'll have a good time. But we'll be back in plenty of time for the Tennessee game, flying back in late Thursday night, early Friday morning. Get a few hours sleep. I'll get up and get your show together. But don't expect a lot of content from me between now and then. I've got some things already loaded for Tuesday morning, and then the Boneyard story will run on Wednesday morning, even though it'll be on your podcast feed on Tuesday. So doing my part to maybe not, keep my guys in the dark. I want to make sure our content plan is followed, and if that means that I got to record 2 shows in a day to make sure that you guys get 3 shows in a week, that's what we're going to do. I didn't choose the grind chose me, and I love what we do, and I hope that shows in everything that we write and everything that we produce here on the Boneyard, and certainly over at genespage.com. Love each and every one of you, and all the things that I want for myself, I want for you to have as well. I'm the kind of person, I don't need for everybody to lose to feel like I'm winning. I want all of us to win. I want all of us to be happy and well-adjusted, and that our kids go on to do some amazing things in life. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.